once upon a time, there was many years ago that I remembered people telling me that Man United were the only football club in England that didn't pay win bonuses because they didn't expect to have to do that because that's what their players were brought in to do, win. So it didn't come as a bonus. I don't think he'll make them into well beaters, but I think he'll enhance their squads. They're back in European football.
He makes the 11 better, first 11.
Possibly, yeah. He gives them more legs, doesn't he? And we'll see.
Well, he doesn't just give them legs. This is the myth with Mason. The stats.
Well, he gives them more legs than what Eriksen gives them.
Yeah, but
right?
he also since he made his debut at Chelsea, he's the number one in stats for goals, assists, and chances created. So apart from the last season where he was
injured,
struggled as well at times, which they all did. His level of performance has been really high, and his end product, you could argue should be even better with the technical ability he's got. But in that United side, who play on the front foot, he's going to play. Make no bones about that. You don't bring him in to be a squad member. He's going to play because the great advantage with Mason Mount is that he can play as an 8, a 6, or a left winger. He can do any of them or a 10. And that's what I love about intelligent footballers is, and we try. I don't know why we get so obsessed with what position a player should always play. Like the Trent debate, I was talking about it on Monday night with Andy on Drive. It's like if you're capable of playing more positions, then you've got more strings to your bow, and the manager can use you in different games in different positions. Why not?
Kai Havertz moving to Arsenal, and Arteta suggesting that he's going to play in midfield.
Well, Declan Rice, I think we're going to see another string to his bow at Arsenal. I think he's going to play more advanced more often. He will sit on occasion, but I think he will be playing more advanced more often. We'll see, I hope, Declan start getting goals and assists, which he should be adding to his game with the quality he's got. So I think it's a good thing you can play different positions.
You're right about Mason Mount in terms of his statistics, appearances, 129 since his debut in the Premier League for Chelsea, the most of any other player that plays in that team during that time. Most starts, most minutes played, most goals, most assists, most chances created. Manchester United wanted him. Manchester United have got him.
Yeah, 5-year deal. I mean, a lot of the reasons why the 5-year deals come into play are because they want to capitalise the spend over a longer period of time, so they can manage their finances and make sure that the depreciation is factored into over a longer period of time. If you're signing a good player in this day and age, I mean, Chelsea signed players on 8-year contracts because they wanted to manage their finances. People didn't like it, so they changed the rules, which I don't understand, because you should be able to sign if the valuation of players is determined by the contract length, then it's up to you whatever bleeding contract you want to give them. And I don't find the nature of changing the rules because certain people didn't like it and certain people thought it was bucking the trend or finding a way around FFP.
When does that come into force? Because Chelsea just signed a player on an 8-year contract, didn't they?
Well, yeah, but the capitalisation of... You can sign players on whatever contracts you want to, but you can't capitalise them over a longer period than 5 years. Yeah. So with that in mind, I didn't like that. But listen, five-year contracts, whatever I think of Mason Mount, and I'm not in the same camp as Danny, I think he's a very good player. I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's the sort of player that Manchester United...
I didn't say he's world class, but I do really like him.
I know you do. Okay, but I'm saying I don't think he's a world beater. I'm not suggesting you're saying it. I think he's a decent player, and I don't think he's akin to world beaters that Man United have signed in previous incarnations to either establish themselves. Yeah, whether they got the best from Pogba at the time, whether they bought the wrong player for the wrong position at Juventus, he was a world beater.
Yeah, do you think Erik Ten Hag is the manager who's more likely to get the best out of someone like Mason Mount? Bearing in mind he was a big part of driving this recruitment.
Well, you would think he was the only part of it, because if we would be led to believe that football managers aren't having players foisted upon them by owners, there's only a few exceptions where that happens, you would expect Ten Hag.
We know that that's not the case, though.
Well, Ten Hag, look, from a footballing point of view, I'll just interject quickly. It's an obvious one for Ten Hag, because what he's got is the capability of playing good football, and he's good in possession, technically gifted, but he's got a great work ethic. Because Ten Hag wants to play good football, that there is no doubt. And he also wants his team to be tremendously industrious off the ball. We've seen that as well. Hence the fact he's playing Weghorst up top ahead of other players at certain times in games, because he wants that work ethic. So he's getting both with Mason Mount. So it's completely right, Simon. It's all him. And let's not forget, he played a year in Holland where he got Player of the Year for Vitesse, was it?
Vitesse Arnhem, yeah.
And Ten Hag knows his players, so he would have seen his intelligence then.
George is a Chelsea fan. He wants to talk to us. Hello.
Hi, lads. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you, George. What do you want to say about Mason Mount joining Manchester United?
Yeah, I thought I just had to ring in because I feel like, I think Mason's obviously a quality player, but I think for me, when I first saw that he was linked with Liverpool, I was thinking if Liverpool as a playing style was a player, it'd be Mason Mount. So I was thinking the fact that if he went to them, it would be a perfect fit. But the fact that he went to Man United sort of told me that he was going for money. That's my opinion.
Well, I understand your train of thought. What I would say to that is that if you look at last season, where Chelsea are and United are on the ascendancy, aren't they? And Chelsea going the other way. So from a footballing point of view, where United were finished in the table, won a trophy, he can see that as a footballing project moving forward quite comfortably.
You think it's a significant step up, do you? United?
I think
Chelsea boy.
I think there's enough of a difference now, but I do tend to agree with where you're going with it. I'm not suggesting it's the only decision. I think there must be a finance, but Liverpool would have been a more logical fit.
The answer is yes.
What?
Man United. The answer is yes. It is a step up.
I think he means United's a bigger club than Chelsea. I think he meant from a chance of winning things.
Well, the answer would be yes again, wouldn't it?
Well, Chelsea historically, over the course of the last 15 years, have won more than Manchester United have.
Sure, I mean, everything's cyclical.
A significant step up?
And we're going round in another cycle. So if you look at the last 5 or 10 years, we had this ridiculous observation from Richard Pochettino yesterday about Chelsea being the most successful football club over the last 10 or 15 years, or the biggest name in English football, when you're looking at what's being done by Manchester City right now, which is emulating anything anyone else has ever done.
He's just fluffing us up, isn't he, as a
very true.
George, let me just whether or not you take into consideration the fact that Chelsea could have given him a contract which he would have signed last winter, did agree, and then they pulled it out from underneath his feet.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. I'm not sure. To me, it seems like, from what I've heard, like rumblings, is that there was a plan a long time ago, well, when Bowley sort of came in, like Simon was saying, with the sort of balancing of the books to get a lot of the academy players sold, basically, to balance the books. And I think this was a strategy from 6 months ago, and I think they probably got themselves in a pickle with the finances and then realised that they actually can't afford to give Mason a 250 grand contract or 200 or whatever it was.
Also, without the deep analysis of who's going to win more trophies and based on last season, last 5 years and all that, sometimes as a player you are attracted to a manager and a club that really wants you and makes you feel good about yourself and gives you some stability in the fact you're going to play under a manager who's going to have the job for the next couple of years. Maybe he sat there at Chelsea going from playing every week to not playing, sat on the bench, one manager in, one manager out. He didn't know he was going to get the job this time, and probably, it can be destabilising from a footballer. I don't mean financial or location. I'm talking just in your brain. I want to play for a manager where I know where I'm at, and I'm going to be able to show what I can do. And maybe he felt that time had come.
George, thank you very much for calling us up. We appreciate it. Phil's a Manchester United fan. Hello.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. What did you make of the signing? The interesting, I suppose, that the line is that it was Erik ten Hag's conversation with Mason Mount which pushed it over the edge.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think something that hasn't been mentioned is that Erik ten Hag has tried to get the gentleman, Mr. Mount, from Vitesse Arnhem when he was 18 years old to take him to Ajax after he'd scored a winner against them. So he's always had him in the background, and I think it's a really exciting signing for us. And I think that it will be interesting to see what Erik ten Hag can help Mason Mount become, playing at such an amazing team as Manchester United.
Has it been a better approach to recruitment from Manchester United than maybe in previous years? They decided on £55 million. They held steadfastly on £55 million up front, and they're not going to pay a penny more unless certain criteria are met. Manchester United end up winning titles and Champions League, etc., etc.
I think one of the things that we're having an issue with this year, as far as United are concerned, is that we haven't got a lot of money to spend. So we've got to be so careful on how we spend it, who we spend it on, and that doesn't necessarily, I'm sure, just come into, getting players that can come straight away into the team. We badly need a goalkeeper. Are we going to get one at the moment? Who knows? As I said, I think we're being really held back by the amount of money that we spend, but talking about the Mason Mount thing, no, I think it's very exciting, and I'm really, really pleased that he's going to be coming to United.
Phil, thank you very much. Alex is a Chelsea fan. Quickly, you're through to Simon. Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make my point. I believe that Mason Mount's kind of been, in a way, brainwashed maybe by the people in the background. I'm pretty sure in the past that his dad wanted him to go to United as a child, and he said that he wants to stay. Chelsea's his club. another point quickly is that Simon's saying about Chelsea and Man City winning trophies. Isn't Man City under an embargo at the minute, or going to be maybe having some of their trophies taken away if they found guilty? So if that happens, technically Chelsea has still won more. You know, I don't think there's a massive leap between Chelsea and Man United at the minute. And to be honest, this one really hurt. You know, I don't think ever a transfer going out of Chelsea in the past has hurt me as much as seeing Mason go to them.
I think this is a really important point. I think Chelsea fans, some Chelsea fans, especially Chelsea fans that have been around for a very long time, are hurt by it. They're hurt by it because they see a kid who came in at 6 years of age.
Get over it.
Has been...
Exactly.
It's all right for you to say
no,
that.
But it is.
If you're watching a football club over the course of 18 years...
What does your upset achieve? It's done.
It doesn't, it doesn't achieve anything, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean something. You've talked already today, both of you have talked about the need for passion and emotion in sport.
Yeah, I get it.
So if you want people to invest in that passion and emotion, then they are allowed to be upset when things go wrong.
You can have a brief lapse and get upset and have a rant maybe about it to your missus or phone up here and do it, but then you have to understand the politics and levels
fine,
of
but there's no reason why they can't feel hurt. You would have been well upset if Gerrard had gone to Chelsea back in the day when they was touted.
Well, if I'd have understood his reasons and he's my mate, I'd have gone good luck, because that's what football is. But I'm hurt is a bit strong. I mean, what are you going to do? Lose sleep, go to doctors and get some medication? Where are we at with it?
Don't be sarcastic.
No, I mean,
people are allowed to be upset.
I would be fuming.
Context and balance. I mean, 20 years ago, Chelsea were on the periphery of financial ruin with Ken Bates, and you've had Roman Abramovich come and manufacture the club into something that it wasn't ever going to be without Roman Abramovich's money, and now you're starting crowing about loyalty.
And it was
you bought a series of players. Well, fans are getting... I'm offended. I'm hurt by the fact that a young player isn't staying at Chelsea until he shuffles off this mortal coil.
Well, I think Chelsea fans are more upset about the fact that the club didn't do enough to keep him.
I'd be
How do you know they didn't?
Well, because they gave him a contract and then they pulled it away.
Well, they changed their minds. That's how business works.
So they didn't do enough to keep him, then, did they?
Well, yeah, of course they did, because they looked at the reality of what they thought they were offering against what they might have offered. And by the way, you know this how.
They did retract the offer. I know that. I don't know the gap between...
I'm not telling you how I know it, but I know it's true.
Or maybe...
I bet it's sourced 3 times.
Or maybe the agent kept on pushing the envelope, kept on changing. So I would do... I've made you an offer, right? No, we want to push. I tell you what, the offer's off the table now. That's how it works in those worlds.
How do you know that he did that?
Because I've dealt with football agents.
Well, it's
a completely different situation, isn't it?
Do you know what the point is?
They'd agreed a verbal contract.
Then why didn't they sign it? And why didn't? Because if you
can't sign a verbal contract,
then it's not a bleeding contract, then is it?
But where the frustration,
it's supposition.
Simon, where the frustration would come from as a supporter for me would be that the club didn't understand the value of the player early enough to get him. Back in the day with Pete Robinson, Liverpool, he was known for giving players contracts before they even knocked on the door. And I know it's changed a bit, I get it. But when you have a player who's so good and instrumental in what you're doing over a period of time, it should never got to a point where you were unable to negotiate, or the player felt unwanted, or the numbers aren't right. You always look after your best players. And they didn't look... So who is in charge of that? Who's been in charge? I know they've changed people in...
and is that half the problem?
But ask yourself why then. When you had Thomas Tuchel in...
Because they've had that much change at Chelsea in terms of the hierarchy, technical directors, whoever's doing this, recruitment.
But it's not a difficult conversation. The manager at the time... Well, it's not. Because Thomas Tuchel was the manager. And Thomas Tuchel would have known the worth of the player.
He should have had it done.
And clearly, he didn't attach enough importance to it. And there wasn't enough importance. So people keep fishing around for these conspiracy theories.
Well, Tuchel was too busy doing other things, apparently.
Well, that's as may be. But Tuchel was busy signing players as well for Chelsea. And Tuchel was busy producing a side. He was there for enough period of time. Mason Mount's last season started with Thomas Tuchel in charge. So during the summer, leading up to his last season, where everybody knows you're behind the 8 ball with the players, nobody, including the manager, seems to have attached enough importance. The same with Antonio Rudiger, but the intellectual capital in this room says that everyone's got it wrong and that Chelsea have got it wrong. Maybe the players' demands, they put a price and value on it.
Well, that might be true. The demands might be.
And the value of it was that we put a certain value on you, and I'm sorry that if we don't meet that valuation...
But if you're paying Sterling 300 grand...
Okay.
If you're paying Sterling 300 grand, you make a rod for your own back, don't you?
You do.
Here's a question for you. If I'd said to you, here's this much money, sign it for 4 years, and then said to you 3 weeks later, actually, get rid of that. I only want you to sign for £150,000. Would your ego be bruised enough that you then went and looked for other opportunities?
Why would they reduce the offer after 3 weeks?
Well, this is what he's surmising that they've done. They took it off.
They're saying they took it away.
They took it off the table.
Well, whatever.
It's
It's
a different thing.
I've just told you the reasons why. Because I'm telling you, when you sit in front of a room and you do a deal with somebody, and ultimately, this is how it works in the real world, not in the theoretical world. You do a deal and you paper it straight away. You don't leave verbal contracts hanging in the ether, because that doesn't mean anything, because people can forget things. So you have your contract papered and everyone agrees it, right? And then what happens is some silly sod agent goes, no, we want more of this and less of that, but we've agreed it. No. We need to think about it a bit more. Fine, tell you what, off the table. How about that? How about that for a negotiating tactic? Because I'm now fed up with you. I'm quite happy to do the deal that I've said I'm going to do.
I don't think it was ever agreed, but I understand where you're coming from.
But that's how it gets retracted. That's why it gets... Because the picture that we want to paint is, what an awful way to behave. Why would a football club devalue a player like that? Maybe the other side of the argument is, maybe Chelsea got an agreement, and maybe the player and his agents went, we've had to think about it. Actually, we're not comfortable with that. We're not comfortable with the deal. We need to see a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, a little bit more of the other. And Chelsea go, we've made you an offer. In principle, we think you've agreed it, and now you're mucking about. So now we're taking the offer off the table. Now you've got a problem.
There's a difference, Sam, between a retraction and a offering of a new contract for half the money. You know, if you start doing
that, then you're taking the mickey out of someone, and you're asking someone to leave.
I had it. I mean, I had it at Fulham because it wasn't about the money. They were just trying to get me to go. It didn't look good for them if they were letting me go. So they could say to the fans, they offered me a deal, but they offered me half my contract,
which is what they've now done, Chelsea, with Callum Hudson-Odoi.
But how long has he got left?
Well, don't take it. Well, then don't take it.
Don't take it. No.
They've asked him to consider a reduction of his £120,000 a week wages if he wants to stay and fight for his spot.
No chance.
Well, then don't take it then.
Or to halve his wages for the club and pay him the remainder and terminate his contract.
Well, to pay him the remainder and terminate, he's a free agent. He'll get 120 grand anyway. He's a super talent. He's got a great chance.
Okay.
With the right management, 120 he'll get all day, every day.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.